Next up, I'm going to be creating some granulated inky black texture down here. Now if you followed me, my other videos or seen my other paintings, then you'll know that this is a technique that I utilize quite often. And it is specifically done using Winsor Newton ink, the liquid Indian ink. It has to be this specific brand and bottle. It's the one with a little dragon on the box and on the jar itself. It does not work with other brands and things. I'm going to show you that in a second. But because I'm going to be making this very dark and black, I'm actually going to go back over and darken some of my pencil guidelines, because there have been times when I've gotten to this phase and I've done my India ink thing and I couldn't actually see any of my sketch anymore, which is a little disconcerting sometimes, because then all I have is this big field of black on my page and I'm at a loss for where my lines and things are. So sometimes I will go back and darken things up, and I'll also take a photo or scan of my sketch so that at the worst, if I have to, I can go back to my go to my computer and I can pull it up and see exactly what I'm missing out on. Okay, stuff has to sort of happen pretty fast when I am doing this, and so I'm going to prepare a few things. I think I'm going to be using a purplish color for the base tones. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, I have to get my jar of stuff open so that it's ready to go. And I have my water. And I can't have stuff on here because I'm going to have to lift and move and tilt things. So first thing I do is I'm going to take a wash and make sure mostly that I am only applying this wash over places where I want my textury stuff to happen, because the ink is going to move and flow over anything that is wet. I'm actually going to do it up into the trunk of the tree here even. Alright, so while things are wet, it has to be pretty wet, I'm going to take my ink and just drop some dots of it into there, and then lifting my panel so that I can tilt it, drop water. So this is going to get very messy and flowy and wet. So it's nice to have something underneath your painting area as well. In case you get ink splattered out of your intended surface area. And I'm just splashing water in because I mentioned before about how pigment granulation doesn't happen if you don't have enough liquid for the pigment to move around in. So the same is applying right now to this. This pigment is only going to move around if I have enough water for it to flow. And you can direct the flow a little bit by the tilting, as you saw me doing, and you can also control it by what areas are wet, because it is only going to flow into wet areas. If you don't have wet, then it won't move. And then after a while, just let it sit and let it dry and let the pigment sort of coagulate and clump up, and enjoy the results later. I just wanted to note that this stage is actually going to take quite a while to dry. You can see how much liquid I have there, especially right here where it's all pooling, and in this corner over there. So this could take maybe an hour to dry, and while this is drying, and already you could see a lot of really cool granulation happening and flowing of the black. You see, look at like how it's all clusters up over there and these little dots. So it's going to take about an hour for this to completely dry. And in the meantime, you know, go do something else. well, when you're doing your painting, when you're watching me do this, it's going to be a quick little hop as we skip to that. And I come back here in about an hour. This ended up taking almost 3 hours to dry. A bit longer than I had hoped for, but it is dry finally. So now I am once again taking my clear watercolor ground and doing a layer over all of this textury stuff.
Where's that Betty?
I have to be extra careful now not to brush too hard because this is a lot more easily lifted than even the blue watercolor paint. So I have to sort of dab gently and not press too hard. But once I get a nice layer of this down and it dries, then I can paint over with subsequent layers of watercolor and washes and things and not worry about losing this beautiful texture that I've created with the ink. Now this is not going to take nearly as long to dry as the ink layer, maybe 10-20 minutes.